So let's begin our session with the prayers to Lord Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Shri Radha Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir Shri Shri Nitai Gauranga Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Ho Shakti. So welcome everyone for the Sunday morning Science of Self-Realization sessions. So we are discussing from this book known as Science of Self-Realization, which is a compilation of the various essays written by Srila Prabhupada and the conversations he had with prominent people across the globe and the exchange of letters he had with very eminent doctors and philosophers across the globe. It's a very wonderful compilation systematically presented for our understanding of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. So we have been discussing since a few sessions about one very interesting topic known as life comes from life. So this life comes from life is a series of conversations which Prabhupada had when he was in America in 1972, April. So he was Prabhupada used to have morning walks every day. So he used to go for a morning walk on the shores of the Venice Beach in Los Angeles. So there was a very wonderful conversations with Prabhupada and his disciples for regarding many subjects of science. So today we are bringing to you one more interesting topic from that series about the fallacies of Darwin's theory of evolution. It's a very wonderful topic, and we will discuss on this elaborately in today's session. Our inspiration for this whole presentation is Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of the worldwide Hare Krishna movement, who established more than 108 temples across the world during his manifest presence. And he has given many wonderful teachings for us in the form of books, in the form of his talks, wherein we can refer them continuously. So the conversation, as I told you, is happening in Los Angeles, 1972 April. So one of the points which Prabhupada brings about while during the conversation is Darwin speaks about the evolution of the species of life, but he has no real information about spiritual evolution. Right? So we have read in our schools and colleges about evolution, and mostly we are taught from Mr. Darwin. So Darwin's theory of evolution is quite popular, and then we have been taught how the species evolve, and so many things like that we have been taught. So some aspects have been touched in this today's presentation, and try to understand what is the actual fact and what is actually taught to us. So Prabhupada bringing out the first point, that Darwin speaks about the evolution of species of life, but he is lacking information about spiritual evolution. Right? So the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata speaks about spiritual evolution. Darwin actually knows nothing about the progress of spirit soul from lower forms of life to higher forms. Right? Basically, the spirit soul is transmigrating from one body to another body. This is the information we get from the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Or Krishna speaks about this to Arjuna, that dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara prapti dhiras tatrana mukhyate. The spirit soul, which is embodied in this material body, is going through changes, transformations in the body from childhood to boyhood, boyhood to youth, youth to old age. And the spirit soul is transmigrating from one body to another at the time of death. This is the knowledge which Krishna gives us in the very beginning. So what type of body, next body which the spirit soul is going to take, depends on the living entity's activities and his mentality at the time of death. His whole cumulative activities, what he has done in that life and the previous lives, is all carried forward as karma. And his mentality at the time of death also plays a very vital role. This Lord Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, that whatever type of mentality you have at the time of death, that type of body you're going to get definitely. Yam yam vapis paran bhavam tajatiyante kalevaram tam tam eviti kaunteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Right? So like this, very nicely Krishna explains that your state of mind at the time of death will determine what type of body you're going to get next time. So according to scriptures, there are 84 lakh species or different types of bodies. This body is like a dress. Different types of dresses available in the nature. So depending on your mentality, the next body is decided. So Mr. Darwin doesn't know about the evolution of the spirit soul. Right? The spiritual evolution is not understanding how gradually there's one process which we'll discuss as we move forward in the presentation. What Darwin claims is that man has evolved from monkeys, right? But we can see that the monkey is not extinct. It is one popular statement which we have read. Oh, we all come from monkeys. Okay, if we all come from monkeys, monkeys are still existing. They are not become extinct. So Darwin's theory is that the species evolve. Once the species are evolved, the other species, the lower species become extinct. That is not the case here. Monkeys are still there, especially in Vrindavan. We see so many monkeys, and they are sometimes very troublesome also. So if the monkey is the immediate forefather of man, why is the monkey still existing? This is a challenge which Prabhupada makes with regard to Darwin's theory. If Darwin is telling the species evolve, and once the species are evolved and come to a very advanced stage, the lower species are extinct. But here we see a classic example of monkey. If man is actually his descendants are monkeys, then why is that monkey still existing? Why it has not become extinct is the question. Right? Now, Darwin says that the species are not created independently, but are descended from one another. This is the statement which Darwin makes, one of the principles which we study in Darwin's theory. So Prabhupada's challenge is, if there is no question of independence, how can he abruptly begin with a certain species? He must explain how the original species came into existence. So the whole theory of evolution which Darwin is putting forward is based on assumption that the species are not created independently. It is a very wrong understanding, right? So abruptly you take from some point and you go on. This is what we have discussed in the previous sessions also. How the scientists basically they start from certain point. They don't start from the original point or the starting point. That is the mistake in their presentation of things. So the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, in fact the science of Gita and Bhagavatam teaches us what is the origin of everything, what is the source of everything, where from things have been created. In fact, we see in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna mentioning that all the species of life, what we are seeing in this world, is origin, the source is Lord Krishna. Through the material nature, the material world, Krishna has created these various bodies. And he places the living entity within the bodies. Krishna claims that he is the father of all living entities in the material world. Aham bija pradapita. So this statement of Mr. Darwin, that the species are not created independently, but they are descending from one another, is a false statement. Right? So Prabhupada is very nicely challenging. there's no question of independence, how can this species evolve or come automatically or begin automatically? So many assumptions which leads to so many questions, right, from the modern scientists. Basically, we're discussing on the point of how the modern scientists or the modern science is based on many assumptions, many things which are all imagined, right? So this is the point which we can understand from the point of view of Vedic understanding. So scientists also claim that the earth was created by biological chemistry, right? And they refuse to teach that God created the earth because they think everyone will consider them fools, right? Some biochemical combination has made the whole creation. They don't want to bring God in picture. Some chemicals, some biological things are existing, and they combine, and that's how Earth is created. In fact, this type of approach, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita as demoniac. Jagad ahuranishwaram, asatyam apratishtamte, jagad ahuranishwaram. Demoniac people say that there is no foundation, there is no truth in this world. Asatyam apratishtamte. And this whole world is not having any creator, no controller. Just things are happening automatically. This is the atheistic theory. Or the people who don't believe in God or who don't want to acknowledge God's existence, they put forward such theories, false theories. And they have their own way of presenting things, that the chemicals, are all there, they combine together. Then at one point of time, life generated. This is a theory they present. And this is what we have studied in our science, in our schools. We've been studying or being taught even now. So Prabhupada's question is, where from these chemicals which you're telling us have combined, where from they have come? What is the origin of them? Just like we just now discussed on the origin of species. If you assume the species are already existing, and one species will create another species, all this type of understanding is creating so much of confusion in people, false assumptions. Right? So the scientists claim that the earth was created by some biological chemical process. Is a wrong theory. Prabhupada says, if their biology and chemistry are so advanced, why don't they create something now? Right? They say it all happened in the past, but why not now? It's a challenge. They claim they may be able to create life in the future, but why in the future? Already life is created. So many life forms we are seeing around us. Things are moving around. So is science only based on the future? As people, just like many times when some vital questions have come, or going to come, or are asked from the public, scientists will say in the future. So Prabhupada's challenge is science based on the future only? And Prabhupada makes again a bold statement. We should trust no future, however pleasant we may think it will be. And this we have heard in the previous sessions also, about in the same series. Prabhupada is making a statement, just don't give me any post-dated check. Right now, something tangible you give me, some money you give me. Like I know that you're actually having money, but you don't have money, but you're giving me post-dated check. I don't know whether it'll have that money in the bank also to clear that check. That is the point. So the scientists claim that we'll do in the future is only a farce. Everyone is thinking that the future will be very pleasant, but what assurance do we have of this? Very nice example is given in the Bhagavata. Just like we see now, the winter is slowly reducing and summer is going to begin. Like this, we have been experiencing year after year. After winter, there is summer. After summer, there is rainy season. This is a cyclic way of functioning. So with this, we can assume very confidently that next year also it will be the same thing, because year after year it has been happening. If some scientists come together and say, no, next year after winter you will have heavy rains, you cannot believe this, because we're going to change the whole situation. It is something very foolish proposal they are giving. So like this, scientists want to claim something which is not practical, which is not very feasible, which is against the laws of nature. So they have to accept that they do not know what the truth actually is. So we have to study everything based on the proper standard understanding of things. Not that we assume certain things, we imagine certain things, and we just propose certain things and make a theory out of it. That is a wrong way of approach. That's what Prabhupada wants us to say. So Prabhupada is challenging. They cannot even produce a spear of grass through their biological or chemical experiments. If you say that life is coming from some biological and chemical combinations and some permutations, we can create life, then why don't you produce one blade of grass now to prove that you are able to produce some life? But they claim that the creation is produced by some biological and chemical methods. It's actually a wrong claim. So in the ultimate analysis, this is again a challenge. When the scientists consider the origin of life, they say that everything started from matter. In other words, living matter comes from non-living matter. This is their assumption. Or this is the way they put forward the theory. That everything what you see in the world is originating from matter. Life comes from matter is the theory which they propose. Whereas this, we have been discussing in the last few sessions, how life is not coming from matter, rather life comes from life. And rather, even matter comes from life. We quoted an example of the lemon tree. How lemon tree is producing so many lemons and thousands and thousands of lemons. And each lemon is having that chemical, citric acid. And if you combine the total, the citric acid production from one tree, lemon tree, it is enormous. And it goes on producing until, as long as the tree is alive. So like this, life is producing chemicals. And life is coming from chemicals. Not that the material ingredients come together and combine together and they form life. It's a wrong theory. This is what Prabhupada wants to explain to us. So Prabhupada very nicely explains, from where is this living matter coming now? Did it come from non-living matter in the past and not at the present? How is the ant coming? We see small living entity ant. Is it coming from matter? Is it materializing from dirt? Prabhupada asks. From so much of soil we see, dirt we see. It's coming from there. Even an ant does not come from inert matter. What proof do they have of such a theory? Very strong and straightforward challenge to the scientists. If you claim that life is coming from matter, please show some proof. Okay, you manufacture one life in laboratory, a blade of grass or an ant, which you're not able to do. So Darwin's claim that in the distant past, no really intelligent man existed. Which means, Darwin says man has come from animals, basically monkeys. Monkeys means they're not intelligent, they're foolish. So man has evolved from apes or monkeys, which means Darwin's proposal is that there was no intelligent living entities in the past. It's actually not a proper statement. So for this, Prabhupada very nicely challenges. If there was no intelligent brain in the past, how is it that these Vedic scriptures were written thousands of years ago? So many Vedic literatures, vast volume of Vedic literatures, the Puranas, Itihasas, the Upanishads, all these things, you mean to say they have been written by somebody who was very dull-headed, unintelligent, some thousands of years ago? So Prabhupada challenges, how do they explain a sage like Vyasadeva, who lived 5,000 years ago? So scientists actually have no explanation. They simply say, these are unknown forest sages. See how they make a very unreasonable statement. So Prabhupada says, Vyasadeva may be unknown to scientists, but nevertheless he was there. And even now he is existing. That's what scriptures say. So he may be unknown to you or to me, but nonetheless his brain work is there. His philosophy is there. His language, his linguistics, poetic arrangements, and verbal strength, all this is there. Right? So Vyasadeva is, is actually the incarnation of Lord Krishna, who has given us all the Vedic literatures in the written form, in a book form. Right? So all the wonderful compilations of the Vedic literatures for our benefit, Vyasadeva has given us, and his works are even now they are present with us. So you may not know the person, but you can understand the brain of the person by his work. Just like when you read any book from any author, you can understand his brain or her brain through the book, the message which the book is giving to us. So Vyasadeva has compiled entire Vedic literature, and after compiling all of them, he gave the essence of all of them in what is known as Vedanta Sutra. And Vedanta Sutra was further explained, elaborated in the form of Srimad Bhagavata. And Bhagavatam is the ultimate literature amongst all the Vedic literatures to give us the essence of the entire wisdom of the Vedic, vast Vedic knowledge. And it is said in the scriptures that if you can read and understand Bhagavatam, your education is perfect and complete. That is the level of advanced understanding which Vyasadeva has given us. So how can you say that Vyasadeva was not intelligent, or is very primitive, or he's not advanced like us? In fact, in the Vedic times, the people's level of advancement and knowledge was much, much higher and better. A simple example Prabhupada gives us. We have been reading Bhagavad Gita, most of us, and Bhagavad Gita is having around 700 verses. And to read Bhagavad Gita, we spend maybe whole lifetime. Even then, maybe we will not be able to comprehend the entire text of Bhagavad Gita. And this whole Bhagavad Gita's conversation between Arjuna and Krishna happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just before the war. Just imagine how much time was there before the war. Hardly any time. Almost on the Kaurava side, the warriors were ready. Bhishma has already blown his conch, making a sound like a lion. And then he was already ready for the war, indicating that all the soldiers on the Kaurava side were ready for fighting. At this point of time, Arjuna ordered Krishna to take the chariot between the two armies, because Krishna was playing the part of a chariot driver, Parthasarathi. So when Arjuna reached in between the two armies and he was seeing on either side, there were different grades of friends, relatives, and many other people whom he knew. He thought, what is this? What is happening? I have come here to fight with my enemies, but the people who are standing as enemies are not my enemies. They are my own people, Swajana, my own kinsmen. And I have to fight with them and I have to kill them. This actually troubled the heart of Arjuna, and he felt compassion on his own people, and he refused to fight. That is when Lord Krishna advises Bhagavad Gita, or teaches Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So this entire instruction of Bhagavad Gita given to Arjuna, maximum it took around 45 minutes to Krishna, because there was no time. And within 45 minutes, Arjuna, who was refusing to fight on the battlefield, was telling, no, I will not fight. He heard Gita, understood the Gita, and he gave his decision that, Krishna, whatever you say, I will do. Now, Prabhupada says, Arjuna was a no man, means no. After hearing Gita, he became yes man, which means within 45 minutes, Arjuna could comprehend and intelligently take a proper decision after hearing Krishna's instruction. So that was the level of intelligence. Just see, 5,000 years back, even a Kshatriya or a warrior, a householder like Arjuna, could understand Bhagavad Gita within 45 minutes. Whereas now, with most advanced academicians or philosophers, thinkers, politicians, scientists, they are not able to understand Bhagavad Gita whole lifetime, the truth of Bhagavad Gita. Look at the degradation of our intelligence. So Darwin's claim that we were not intelligent, we were primitive, we were not having proper understanding of things is a very false claim, or a false understanding. That's what Prabhupada wants to tell us. Now, one more question which we get after understanding the Darwin's theory of evolution is that all the species of life were not existing from the very beginning. Darwin's claim is what? They evolved one species go to the next higher species and the other lower species become extinct. That's what his theory is. So this comes to us, this brings us to an important question. Weren't all the varieties of animals existing from the beginning? Prabhupada very nicely explains to us. Yes, simultaneous creation is verified by the Bhagavad Gita also. In fact, all the species of life existed all the time from the very beginning of creation. And this is verified and properly explained by Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. So all the varieties of animals and men, as well as demigods, were existing from the beginning. It's very interesting, perspective which we get from the Bhagavad Gita. Now you are able to see one in this slide one nice picture where it is showing how the Vedic way of evolution happens. Right? Vedic way of evolution is that the life forms, when they are when they are put in the material world, the living entity, basically spirit soul, they begin as aquatics. Aquatics, next they evolve to plants and trees. From plants and trees, they become insects, then reptiles, then birds, then animals, then they evolve to humans. Again, Bhagavad Gita tells us that the human form of life is like a jumping board. It's a turning point. Either you can liberate yourself from the human form of life to spiritual world, or again you will go back to, based on your mentality, your thinking, you may degrade yourself to animal forms or much lower life forms. And again, you have to evolve step by step, step by step. That is what is happening with us. We, based on our activities and mentality, for example, somebody wants to, swim like fishes. So material nature will arrange that next life, by Lord's order, the living entity will again get the body of a fish or an aquatic to swim, and again slowly evolves into the trees and plant species. And every species there are good number of entities, good number of species numbers. It's like it is said the aquatics, there are 9 lakh forms. Jalaja Navalakshani, Sthavara Laksha Vimshati. There are 20 lakh species amongst the plants and trees. And there are 11 lakh species amongst the insects and reptiles. Right, like this. The numbers are all very specific. So all varieties of animals and men, as well as devatas, were existing from the very beginning of the creation. Right? So creation, maintenance, and annihilation is again a cyclic process. It goes on. The living entity wants a certain type of body, and Krishna gives it to him. This is what is happening with all of us. Now, whatever mentality we develop, mentality means the type of desires we have, the type of aspirations we have, Krishna fulfills them by awarding a suitable body to us. The whole material life is an opportunity given to living entity to satisfy their desires, basically. So, if you develop a strong mentality of enjoying in a specific way, Krishna will give us opportunity to develop a certain type of body and experience that desire, those desires. And like this, we have unlimited desires stocked in our subconsciousness. It's called subtle body, the chittam. And all these desires are slowly being satisfied by Krishna, life after life. So when you come to the human form of life, it's a wonderful opportunity to take out, rather completely nullify all these desires and develop one single desire that I want to go back to spiritual world, Krishna Loka, which actually is our destination, actual destination. And when you develop this desire, I want to only serve Krishna, I want to go back to spiritual world, Krishna will very happily fulfill that desire, because that is our natural situation. It's like the fish naturally is happy in the water. We as spirit souls are naturally very happy in the spiritual world in association of Krishna. Right now we have taken different bodies, or rather we are forced to take different bodies because we are developing a desire to enjoy in the material world. So based on our desires, Krishna is fulfilling our desires by awarding us different bodies. So a living entity wants a certain type of body, and Krishna gives it to him. Because he desires things in a certain way, he associates with certain qualities of nature in matter. It is explained in the Bhagavad Gita very nicely. Karanam guna sangasya sadasat janma yonishu. When the living entity develops a certain type of a mentality and desire to enjoy the material world, he associates with certain qualities of this material nature. The qualities of material nature are three. They are known as Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, and Tamo Guna. All is explained in detail in Bhagavad Gita. Just briefly telling you. So when you associate with a particular quality of nature, mode of nature, Karanam Guna Sangosya, Sadasat Janma Unit, she gets higher and lower forms. Just like it is said, when you develop mode of goodness, or you have inclination towards association with mode of goodness, you get a body, or you get a birth in higher planetary systems. Right? This whole universe is divided into three parts: higher planetary systems, middle planetary systems, and lower planetary systems. We as human beings are right now in the middle planetary system known as earthly planets. So if you have developed Sattva Guna, the mode of goodness, you go to higher planets. And if you have in the Rajoguna, passionate mode, you will be remaining in the middle planetary system in the earth, in the human form. And if you develop a mentality of Tamoguna, or mode of ignorance, you will be degraded to lower life forms. This is the understanding we get from Bhagavad Gita. So, because the desires are there in the living entity to enjoy the world independently, he is associating with certain qualities of nature in the matter. And according to his association, he receives a particular type of body. Sad asad, higher or a very condemned life the living entity is getting. The living entity, spirit, soul is the same. But because of his desires, because of his association with the different modes, he is getting higher and lower forms. The same living entity having the body of a human being right now may degrade himself into a life form of a dog next life. Possible. Right? Because if you are associating with your pet animal dog so much, next life, when you are about to die, you are only thinking about your dog. Next life, very much possibility that you will become a dog. It's like this, the type of mentality, the type of association you have with different types of things in the material world, the type of life you're going to get next. That's why the recommendation is don't associate with material things, rather don't take things too deeply in your mind, consciousness. Associate with Krishna and Krishna's devotees. That will liberate you from the material world. It's such a simple technique which Krishna is giving us in the Bhagavad Gita. The psychological forces, the mind, thinking, feeling, and willing, determine the particular type of situation and the body the living entity receives. This is what I've been talking now. How the evolution is happening from aquatics to trees and plants, to insects and reptiles, and then animals, birds, and then finally human again. Human form of life, you don't utilize the opportunity to liberate yourself. The psychological forces of thinking, feeling, willing will only degrade you further. So it's very important, very crucial for the human being to understand the responsibility he has with regard to what he's supposed to do in his human form of life. The evolutionary process is there, but it is not an evolution of species. It is the spiritual evolution, which means as you go from one species to another, there's a gradual spiritual progress in your journey of life. It's not just evolution of species. Right? Just you transfer yourself from one species to another. Actually, from aquatics to you come to animal forms gradually, which means you are spiritually evolved, and you're going to get a very wonderful body of a human next life, wherein you are advanced spiritually so much that you can liberate yourself from the material world, provided you act in that way. So, this Darwin's theory of the evolution of species is not going in line with the evolutionary process of the spirit soul or spiritual evolution as discussed in the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. So, very nicely, Krishna explains that it is not that one species of life develops from another, as Darwin claims. It is actually, as Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Bhuta Gramasa Evayam Bhutva Praliyate Ratri Agame Avasha Partha Parabhavati Ahar Agame. This is a statement in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, again and again when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being, and with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. You see, this is the process of, as I told you, the process of creation, maintenance, and annihilation is a cyclic process. So when there is when the day of Brahma comes, it starts. All that is annihilated in the night is again created. And what is creation? Creation means, in Brahma's day, from Brahma's perspective or from the cosmic perspective, the living entities who are all sleeping from whatever state of being they were, sleeping means they are inert, they become inert. Again, they get a body and they start from the point where they ended previous day. It's like this. In the night, when you sleep, you suspend all your activities when you're awake, right? You may be doing a business, you may be a professional, you may be whatever you are. You suspend all the activities and your body is lying on the bed. Your body becomes totally inactive, whereas your mind is working. You are transferred yourself to a dream world, right? That is called, Sapna Avastha. Jagrati Sapna Avastha. Every day we do this. And when you're sleeping, the dream state, you don't remember what, you don't have any connection with your activities when you're awake, right? Similarly, when you're awake again in the morning, you forget all that you're dreaming, the dreamy world. Again, you become active and you start resuming, just like you have been doing some activity, some work, and you've done, say, 50% of that activity. For the next day, when you're awake, you begin from the 51st%. Not that you begin everything from scratch again. No, there's a continuity. Likewise, our journey of life also, whatever type of mentality you had, whatever type of desires you had, that will continue as a baggage for you next life. You'll begin from that point where you stopped. So journey, continuous journey. Like this, life will go on. As long as you have many, many desires, this journey of life in the material world will go on. That is why it is known as Nitya Baddha. Eternally conditioned life will go on. So we need to understand that this eternally conditioned life is full of miseries and full of troubles and problems. It is not going to give us actual happiness. Dukkhale ashashvatam, Krishna says. It's filled with miseries and it is temporary. We need to come to our original state of eternal blissful situation, that is Krishna conscious platform, by awakening ourselves, or rather awakening our understanding that I am part and parcel of Krishna, I am supposed to serve Krishna. That is the whole purpose of reading Bhagavad Gita and having these sessions for you, to awaken your soul from this slumber that I am this body, I have to go on like this. The bodily conception of life makes us continue life after life in this body, different bodies for that matter. So we have to awaken from this bodily conception of life to spiritual conception of life. I am spirit soul. Because as long as we are having desires, Krishna will go on creating and destroying and maintaining this material world again and again. That's what is being mentioned here. Bhutva praliyate. Again and again, the material world is annihilated. Again and again, it's created. So like this, many, many, many millions and millions of creations, annihilations we have been experiencing. That is our life journey. So very nicely it is explained by Krishna that helplessly we are going through these various situations of creation, annihilation, and maintenance, and we are forced to go through this situation. So the evolution is a spiritual evolution of the individual living entity through the various species of life, right? So even though it's going through various species of life, the gradual elevation, upgradation. It's like if you're for example, if you're entering into the body of a fish, you have to undergo the evolutionary process step by step. From fish, then you get the body of, gradually after going through many, many different forms of fishes, species of life of fish, then you come to the body of a tree. Again, trees have many varieties. There are shrubs, there are bushes, then there are some little bigger plants, big trees. But this evolution happens. So, very nice example Prabhupada gives. If one is on the top of the stairs and somehow falls down, he again has to go up to the evolutionary staircase step by step. This brings us to the point of one point which we discussed last time also. How there are some people who claim that after you got human form of life, you'll continue to be a human being. There's no degradation. This theory is being propagated, but it is not a fact. Actually, human form of life is a junction. If you don't utilize the human form of life in a proper way to elevate yourself, then you will degrade again. Gita says, if you have prominently develop the mode of ignorance, tamoguna, then you will degrade to the animal form of life. Right? So this is the background with which Prabhupada is telling here. It's like if you fall down from the staircase somehow, again you have to go step by step. Not that you can jump from one step to the 30th step. No. The scientists are busy making so much research that they cannot understand this. So when the cause of all causes is known, then everything knowable becomes known and nothing remains unknown. So basically, Prabhupada is wanting to tell us that when you know Lord Krishna is the origin of everything, and from him everything is emanating, everything, he is the cause of all causes, then you know everything in the right perspective. It's a nice statement in the Vedas. It is said, yes, kasmintu bhagavato vijnate sarvamidam vijnatam bhavati. If you know the absolute truth, all other truths become known. But if you don't know the absolute truth, we are in ignorance. So the society right now, because now people are ignorant about Lord Krishna, how Krishna is creating the material world, how the species are evolving. Because of this ignorance, people are put under under so much of forgetfulness of Krishna, and they are going on in the cycle of birth and death. In fact, Bhagavad Gita states, our whole suffering in the material world is because of our forgetfulness of Krishna. Ignorance that I am this body. Right? This is the whole reason for our material existence. So one may not be an official scientist or philosopher, but he may challenge anyone and talk boldly. If he only knows one thing, Krishna, you can see how Prabhupada so boldly went all over the world and he started talking about Krishna philosophy, what Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, because Prabhupada knew Krishna, and Krishna means he's everything. Right? He's the source of everything, he's the origin of everything, he's the greatest scientist. So when you know Krishna, you know everything else. That is the speciality of a devotee. So now we'll try to understand some aspects of the present civilization, modern civilization, how it is going on under some false notions, false beliefs, and so many wrong paradigms. And we think that everything is okay. Right? The contemporary civilization is so proud of its independence, but actually it is so much dependent on many aspects. For example, one classic example Prabhupada often gives is about how we are depending on the fuel, oil. Right? All of us are going up and down with our own vehicles or different public transports, but everything is running by fuel, oil. And just imagine if the oil supply is stopped, then what will the scientists do? They cannot do anything. We cannot, scientists cannot manufacture the oil in the test tubes, but the whole civilization can run. One war in one corner of the world will affect the supply of oil and the pricing of the oil so much. Everybody gets affected. Just imagine for a week, all the oil, the petrol pumps and the oil pumps are all closed. You'll run into panic. Everybody run into panic. So that is the way we are all interdependent on so many aspects of the different things which Krishna has given us. What is oil actually? Oil or the fuel is the reserve of a particular matter in a particular form, which Krishna has given us in different ways. This we have to realize, this we have to understand. At present, for example, Prabhupada gives one more example of how there is scarcity of water in India. Right? What can the scientists do about this? When there is no rains or there is a shortfall of water supply in some parts of India or some parts of the world, scientists are predicting now. So these cities will become dry after some time. But what are you going to do? They may know the chemical composition of water, but they cannot produce it when there is great scarcity. Right? So you may know how to make water or how to manufacture water, but unless there is intervention from Krishna in the form of rains and different various other natural ways of providing us water, there will always be scarcity. Right? We cannot do things on our own. So they require the help of clouds, and all that is God's manipulation. Actually, they cannot do anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyad anna sambhava. Living entities are subsisting on food. And where is this food coming from? Food is produced by proper rains in the fields, on the fields. Parjanyad Anna Sambhava. Yajnad Bhavati Parjanya. How does these rains come about? Right? Rains come out when you are performing proper sacrifices as duties. Like this, in a very nice explanation is given in the Bhagavad Gita. So we need to understand there is a very perfect arrangement in the whole material world with regard to the various supplies which the living entities are supposed to get. The different wonderful systems which Lord Krishna has made in the universal management. This we have to realize and this we have to recognize. That's the point. Prabhupada is putting one more challenge. They have gone to the moon, but for all their labor, they have simply taken away some dust and rocks. Because during Prabhupada's time, in 1968-69, there was moon expedition, right, in America. A lot of big news was there, and these things were brought to Prabhupada's notice. And Prabhupada says, yes, one thing is that they have not gone to moon, but even if they claim they have gone to moon, they didn't find anything. Right? For Prabhupada selling all their hard labor of spending millions of dollars to have a spaceship and go to moon, finally they're ending up bringing some dust and rocks. The modern government exacts taxes and spends money unnecessarily. That is their intelligence. Right? Millions and millions of dollars are invested in this. And the politicians have no sympathy or compassion. Why? Because they do not consider the hard-earned money which is coming out from the public is the very valuable money from the public. They are spending it by shooting big rockets off to other planets. Prabhupada is challenging like this openly. All they do is promise to bring back more dust. First, they will get a handful of dust, and they promise to bring back tons of dust. What is the meaning of all this? So basically, Prabhupada says that scientists may believe or not believe that there is life on Mars. What is the gain? If you simply go on analyzing, oh, there is life on this planet, there is no life in this planet. But what is the purpose of doing this analysis and this scientific way of approach, which you say is scientific? Prabhupada says, but what we know from the scriptures is that life is there in every place, every planet. The statement in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarvagataha, the living entities are in all planets, on all different various creations of the world, of the Lord. There is no place which is vacant from living entities. So living entities are all pervading. It's not that only in some places living entities are there, in some places they are not there. No, it is Lord's creation. Every nook and corner of the creation, living entities are there. So to know this, people, even if they know that there is life on other planets and so many things, yet they are engaged in fighting and killing life. Just like we are seeing now, right now, war is going on. Right now on earth, there's so much life, but what are they doing? They are fighting and killing life. This is the foolish way of approach. Here is life, here is human being, life is here undoubtedly, but they are busy trying to destroy it with their big bombs. That is their scientific advancement, right? They advanced in creating nuclear plants, big machineries for fighting, artilleries, and this is our advancement, we think. In fact, whether we are creating, discovering things from our modern science to accelerate death, not to avoid death. So, if the scientists are very curious to know what is going on other planets, what does it mean from Vedic perspective? Prabhupada says, that means for their childish curiosity, they are spending so much money. That's all. They can spend so much to satisfy their curiosity. But when so many poverty-stricken countries ask them for help, they say there is no money. This is the approach they have. So they're very proud to go to the moon. But why don't they take information how to go to Krishna, Goloka Vrindavana? Just now we discussed how going to moon means they want to collect some dust and rocks. What is the purpose? What is the aim? Just I want to go there. Very nicely Prabhupada comments in more context. Just like we hear sometimes people boasting themselves, oh, I have traveled in 30 countries. Or my passport is stamped with more than 100 countries. It's like a boasting amongst different people. So I have gone here, I have gone there. For what purpose? For your own satisfaction, for your own entertainment. So the purpose of human life is not to simply roam around like this. We have been doing this life after life in different species of life. Purpose of human life is to go back to spiritual world, Krishna Loka. If scientists can somehow endeavor to go back to spiritual world or make arrangements to go back to spiritual world, that is the perfection of life. Otherwise, you'll be going on roaming in this material world. Brahmanda Brahmana will be going around in the material world with no actual purpose. No, it is very not proper for the spirit soul's growth or journey of spirit soul. So if they go there, actually, if you go to Golok Vrindavana, which is spiritual world, all their curiosity will be satisfied. Spirit soul has a tendency to travel, but it is traveling in a wrong way, entangling itself. That's the point. So they will learn that beyond this material world, this inferior energy, there is indeed a superior spiritual energy. Once you start planning to go to spiritual world, and this material energy cannot work independently, the spiritual energy has to join it. This we have been discussing in our previous sessions also. So material elements are not created of themselves. So in fact, I'm trying to conclude everything in this is the last session of this series of sessions of Life Comes From Life. So material elements are not created of themselves. It is the soul that is creative. And we may try to make something with matter, but matter does not create itself. Right? The whole claim that life is come from matter is a wrong theory. Matter has no power of creation. It is a soul, spirit soul, who has the power of creation. And Supreme Soul, Lord Krishna, Supreme Creator, was infused all of us with the power of creation. Right? That is the understanding. So hydrogen and oxygen will come in contact only when moved by the superior energy. Right? The two elements will remain like that as it is without any further reaction or further transformation. Only when when the two elements are mixed or touched by the spirit soul, then they combine together. Only fools can accept the entire cosmic manifestation. It is only matter to come into being automatically. Right? The Big Bang theory, which scientists or the way we were taught in the schools, just there was a big chunk, it all exploded. But where from the chunk came and what is the cause of the explosion? These questions we don't ask. That is the problem. So the scientists claim or the philosophers claim that everything has happened automatically by nature is a wrong claim. Nothing happens automatically. There should be a spiritual touch for every movement, for everything what is happening in the material world. Very nice examples Prabhupada gives. We may have a nice car, but if there is no driver, what is the use? And unless the car is driven by a driver, the car will not move. It will stand there for hundreds of years. Unless a man knows how to work a machine, unless a man pushes a button, the machine does not work. Right? Machine is dead matter. It has no creative force. A spirit soul has to touch the machine. Similarly, without the superior energy, the material energy cannot act. This is a fact. This is what we have been discussing. Life comes from life. Without spiritual touch, the life touch, the things, even the material world, things cannot move. So behind this wonderful cosmic manifestation is the direction of a superior energy. So when you analyze like this, even without our touch, matter doesn't move. How is Krishna moving the entire world? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, under his supervision, under his direction, the entire world is working. Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. All things are moving, all things are, are conducting themselves only by Krishna's direction, is his will. Right? So all this information is there in the scriptures. But unfortunately, people don't believe it. We'll take up one more important, nice, short for discussion. How people say, or in fact, we have been told constantly, bombarded with the understanding that, oh, we are overpopulated, too much population is happening. Now, what is the Vedic perspective of this? Actually, everything is God's property, but people are claiming this property to be theirs or their countries. This is what everybody is trying to do now. It is my nation, my state, my place, my property. Now they're talking about the problem of overpopulation. But the fact is that God has supplied enough for everybody. Creation, Lord's creation is so perfect and complete. Everybody has their, as long as Lord has created, arrangement is there. Perfect arrangement is there. There's enough land, enough food if it is properly used. In fact, Prabhupada used to say, I'm traveling so extensively across the world. I'm not seeing a place which is deprived or just not, it is actually not where there are no people. And there's enough land and enough resources that the world can maintain 10 times the population. This is a statement Prabhupada made. 10 times the population the world can sustain, but it's only because why that this aspect of overpopulation or scarcity is being experienced is because artificially we're creating problems. And added to this, the scientists are helping those miscreants by giving them some destructive devices, the ways and means to help them to create this artificial scarcity. That's the problem. That is the point. So they're simply encouraging these rogues and rascals for trying to use up the God's property. It's like, if you help a murderer or a thief, you also become a criminal. That's the point. Likewise, these people are being so much trouble in the world because the scientists are helping all the thieves and rogues who want to exploit this world by hoarding things, by wanting to become rich or want to enjoy the material world. You're helping them. And that way, the world is having this situation around us. They're all criminals. The Bhagavad Gita says, Stena eva saha. One who does not recognize the proprietorship of the Supreme Lord is a thief. So this is what is the situation right now. We are seeing the whole world. People are not recognizing the Lord's supremacy, His creation, how Krishna is maintaining everything. Added to this, the scientists want to avoid God, want to acknowledge God's creation. This is all leading to the present day situation of problems and chaos, what you're seeing right now. So what is the purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement? What is the mission? This is my last few slides which are going to conclude with this whole session. So what is the purpose of Krishna conscious movement? What are you trying to do? Having these sessions or establishing temples or having festivals. What are you trying to do? Our mission is to bring these foolish people to their senses. Now one must find out the means to do this. Right? So Prabhupada's whole purpose of establishing Krishna consciousness movement, ISKCON movement, is to bring some sanity in the people's understanding. What are we doing? What are we trying to achieve? Foolishly we're running here and there, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Let me do a meaningful, purposeful life journey. Not simply going around and enjoying senses like animals is of no use. This is the point. The rascals are suffering, but because they are sons of God, they should not suffer. See the compassion of Prabhupada. This is how the devotees are, pure devotees are. They are para dukkha dukhi. They can't see others suffering. Other suffering in terms of from the spiritual perspective. Unnecessarily, they are not understanding the real purpose of life. They are going to get one more material body. One more material body means more suffering. So this they want to avoid. They do not know that there is God or that there is happiness. They know nothing of bliss or of eternal life. So like this, the living entities are completely ignorant about their own nature, their existence, their actual situation. They are ignorant of, right? Forgetful of. So they are carrying on so much research and living for 50, 60, 70 years. And what happens? They don't know what is going to happen in their own life. They don't have knowledge that their life is eternal. And that way they die one day. And again, to take one more life form, one more body. So actually, their position is like that of an animal. An animal does not know what is after death, nor does he actually contemplate death. The very famous example we have discussed earlier also of how a goat with few goats, they're all tied in a particular place for slaughtering. And they're given green grass. They're munching the green grass so nicely. One goat is pulled out from that group. It's getting slaughtered. The goats are seeing fellow goat is being slaughtered, but they are least bothered. They are munching their grass and they think, oh, I'm going to live happily. This is the animal mentality. That's what Prabhupada is pointing out. How people have become like animals. Animal does not know what is after death. How does he actually contemplate after death? He does not know why he is here, nor does he know the value of life. See, such a big degradation in consciousness. Under the influence of Maya, the animals simply goes on eating, sleeping, defending, mating, and dying. Like this, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. And when you are born, again, you go through this sense gratification of eating, sleeping, mating, defending. This is the purpose of life, people think. If that is going on, then the purpose of human life is not served. Right? We are working so hard, doing so many things, but for what purpose? The whole purpose of life is to go back, or rather, come out of the cycle of birth and death and go back to spiritual world. Right? They say that they are struggling very hard to make provisions for the next generations. But what are the provisions for? Right? Foolishly, when you ask somebody, why are you working so hard? No, I have to earn money, I have to secure properties, but my family, my future generations will be happy. Right? So they don't even know, they can't also enjoy those things. And what is the guarantee that their future generation will experience that? Very foolish. It's called madness. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give real purpose of life by establishing Krishna, God, as the center of everything. It is the purpose of mission of Krishna consciousness. And by doing this, everybody will come to a proper goal and purpose. It is therefore to the scientists' benefit to understand this important movement. So we are not undermining or we are not undervaluing the scientists' approach and other philosophers' approach. Rather, they should know the facts properly. If they are posing themselves as scientists, as leaders, and they are misleading the people, that is very, very unfortunate. This is what Prabhupada wanted to tell. Right? You are claiming yourself to be one sort of a leader or a guide to society. You should not mislead people. You should not misguide people. That is the point. Right? You should properly guide them with proper understanding. So with this, I'll conclude today's session. And with this, we also conclude our series called Life Comes from Life. And from next session, we'll take up the new topic. Okay, so with this, I conclude now. If anybody has anything to ask, discuss, we can take up a few questions. Yes, Sumitaji, Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu ji.
Yes, please tell.
मेरा क्वेश्चन क्या है कि जैसे कि आपने इवोल्यूशन का बताया, तो इवोल्यूशन एक तो जो हम लोग पढ़ाई किए हैं, जो कि साइंटिस्ट बताते हैं कि एक फिजिकल इवोल्यूशन होता है, तो जो कि भगवद गीता में बताया गया स्पिरिचुअल इवोल्यूशन. तो जैसे कि कोई भी नई स्पीशीज अगर एक्सटिंक्ट होती है, तो इसका हम लोग मतलब कि जो कि साइंटिस्ट बताते हैं कि वो एक्सटिंक्ट हो गए, उनको फूड नहीं मिला, ये नहीं मिला, लेकिन एक्चुअल इसका क्या रीजन मतलब कि ये होना चाहिए कि स्पिरिचुअली कोई ऐसी सोल नहीं था जिसका कि वो चीजें मतलब कि मैच करता हो. जैसे कि अगर हम एग्जांपल है डायनासोर्स का, तो स्पिरिचुअली कोई ऐसा कोई सोल नहीं था जिसमें कि वो सारी खूबियां मतलब कि उसमें मौजूद हो, इसलिए वो एक्सटिंक्ट हो गया. मतलब रीजन क्या हम लोग सोचें कि क्या उसके एक्सटिंक्ट होने का क्या रीजन है, या तो किसी एक नई स्पीशीज का अगर कोई बॉर्न होता है तो उसका क्या रीजन हो सकता है. मीन उसका क्या साइकोलॉजिकल फोर्स ही एक रीजन है कि कोई और भी फैक्टर्स इसमें आते हैं.
Very nice question. Good question. So let us understand that all species of life are not present on this earth. Say, for example, the scriptures say there are 4 lakh species of humans. Okay. Say the Indians may be called one species. Americans may be called another species. Or say Chinese may be called one more species. Say maximum we can say around 50, 60 species. What about the rest of the species? Where are they? Actually, they are spread all over the universe. And the universe is so vast. It's beyond our imagination to think how vast it is. Even on this earth, many, many species of life we have not understood or analyzed. So, for example, the biologists may not know how many species of aquatics are there. How many types of aquatic plants are there? They may list few hundreds or few thousands. But the scriptures tell us the information, the exact information. There are 9 lakh species of aquatics. Who has seen all of them? Right? Who has analyzed all of them? The point is, our understanding of this material world is very limited. The number of species of life which is all spread all over the universe, we don't have that knowledge at all. So when you say something is extinct, or something was existing, it is not right there. It may not be here on this earth for your experience. It may be in some other planet, in some other part of the universe. So the scientist's explanation that something has become extinct is because they cannot see. Just like in the night, you cannot see the sun, doesn't mean that the sun is dead. Early morning, again, sun will rise. During that time, when you're consciously trying to find out where is sun is not visible, right? And the time is such that cycle of time, it goes on cyclically, right? It would during one point of time during one point of your conscious existence there, maybe that part of that portion of the time may not give you the experience of the species which is supposed to come little later, or rather come in the cycle of the whole existence little later. But the fact we have to understand and accept is, as we discussed in the Bhagavad Gita's point of view, is that every species of life existed every time, all over the creation. It's just that you may not be able to experience certain species of life from your experience right now. Doesn't mean they don't exist. Okay, every species of life existed every time, all the time, right? So it's just that how much life you can have in the human form. You can say in Kali Yuga maximum you can have 100 years. What is 100 years from the cosmic perspective? It's nothing. It's just a flash, right? Like that, you may say that, oh, this species was there, this is not there, this is not there, right? So it's a fact that all the species are existing. It may not be in your experience right now. It may be in some other planet, some other space. They are existing. See, if the concept of dinosaurs and all this has come in human brain, which means such species exist, right? So like this, there are the point is, when something has come in human's imagination, it cannot come beyond the creation of Krishna, right? Now, you cannot imagine something which is beyond creation of Krishna. They are there, but they may not be here for you to physically experience them. And let me tell you, there are many species of life, rather existences. As you move up to the higher planetary systems, the existence is very subtle. It's not like how you see gross things here. And definitely the different species, like which scientists may say, or the archaeologists may say, or the anthropologists may say that they don't exist now, or they have become extinct. They are there somewhere. In fact, when this question was asked to Prabhupada, yes, they may not be in your experience, but they are there somewhere right now, right? Because the time is such that we are only experiencing one short span of time. Even for that matter, in Kali Yuga, we have only passed 5,000 years. And Kali Yuga is going to last 4,32,000 years. Huge span of time in one sense. And previous to this, there was Dwapar Yuga. I'll give you a short incident to give you an understanding of how time is so relative and how things change so much. It so happened that you know that Balramji, his wife is Revati, and his father, Revati's her father, Raivata, he happened to be a very strong king, very powerful king, and in fact he also helped the Devatas in the fight. So he went to the heavenly planets to get help for getting his daughter married. It said that he approached Brahma to find a suitable match for his daughter. And by the time he approached Brahma, and Brahmaji recommended, actually the only best match for your daughter is Balramji, who's appearing in the Kali Yuga. Because the time is so relative. With Brahma's time, we discussed in our previous session how Brahma's one day is 1,000 cycles of Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali. So just some time he was there and talking, and then by the time he came back, the time has passed from Satya Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. So in Dwapara Yuga, comparatively, the size of the living entities was much smaller compared to people in Satya Yuga. So we have a nice pastime in Bhagavata mentioning how when Balramji, Raivata brought his daughter Revati for marriage, she was much taller. She was 20 feet taller. Balramji was 12 feet taller. So Balramji had to use his plow to reduce her size. Right? Yes, see. So what species of life existed, in Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga? As per the time, the different species are manifested at that point of time. Maybe in this universe, specific universe, in a specific place, this one yuga is going on. In some other universe, again, let me tell you, the living entities also are transmigrating from one universe to another universe. It's possible, not only in this planet, some other, there are innumerable universes, material world. Specifically suitable for your desire, Krishna will transfer you there. How you see in the present day context also. Many people, maybe they are born in Uttar Pradesh, but they will be working right down in Bangalore somewhere all life. Right? So why? That's how the karma has made them to go like that, from some part of India to some other part of India or some other part of the world. Likewise, our journey also, based on our desires, Krishna is saying appropriately this desire can be fulfilled in this place. He may transfer to a specific universe to you. So, this species of life, Prabhupada says, is spread all over the universe. And you may not experience every species of life in a specific place or in a specific given time. That point we have to understand. So, the existence of any species of life is a fact anytime. Just that because we cannot experience, we cannot see them, or we cannot actually physically see them, doesn't mean they don't exist. That's the point. So Krishna has a wonderful arrangement. That's what we have to appreciate. Okay, I hope I have answered your question.
Guruji, Prabhuji, namaskar.
Hare Krishna. Please tell me.
Today I was really hearing you and I got amazed to know that if people are talking about Big Bang Theory and all, then how come 5,000 years before the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad was written? Thank you so much for opening my mind. I'm really impressed by that sentence by you. Prabhuji, you have really opened my mind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Keep attending sessions, and we have more such wonderful sessions for all of you, enlighten you and take you forward in your spiritual journey. Thank you everybody. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.